join us if they can, so that we can be able to cover a lot today. So we're just going to start by 10:10 on the dot. Just in 3 minutes time. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start now, and then others can join us if they can. If not, they will have to watch the recording to for this module to be made available. Um, so yes, good morning once again, and then thank you for joining the class and your patience so far. We are almost at the end of the learning parts, and we have one more week to go, which will be next week. And I hope even by the end of the week, we'll have learned a lot, and then be able to even sit for um, our exam for those that have not written the exam yet. That's the Easy 900 exam. And probably with a little more reading and then a little more hands-on, we'll be able to do that. So the topic we are starting with today, or the learning part for today, is the management. We are going to be talking about the management and the governance as it concerns Microsoft Azure. And so I remain Titilope below, your instructor for this course. and you can always reach out to me from either the the our community, that's on either via these teams or via what's the name of the community again?
Discord.
App, Discord, yes. Thank you. Or on LinkedIn. I'm not that much of a social person, but I try once in a while. So you can always reach me from there. And then continuing on this. So what are we going to be looking at in this particular learning part or module? We are going to be looking at cost management. We'll take a look at governance and compliance as it concerns your Microsoft Azure cloud. And then we'll look at resource deployment tool, that's the various tools that are available to deploy and manage Azure. And then we'll look at the available monitoring tools that Microsoft makes available for us to be able to manage our cloud environment. So the first topic we'll be discussing is cost management. So normally when planning a solution in the cloud, there's always the challenge of balancing costs. That is that's a norm, right? Balancing cost against performance. So it can be like a guessing game, whether you are selecting options that will stay within your budget, or whether you have a surprise budget or a surprise bill. This a concern. So you need to be able to confidently answer a few questions when it comes to managing costs with cloud, like what is the cost of the solutions that you are going to be using, or the services that you're going to be using within a fiscal year. And then if there are alternative configurations that you could use to save money as you use the cloud services, or is it even possible for you uh, to estimate how a change will impact your cost and performance without putting it into a production system. So, meaning, is there a way for you to tell how much you are going to be spending even before you migrate your data to the particular cloud service, which in this case is Azure? So in this particular module or sub-module, we are going to be exploring the tools that you can use to answer those questions we have just asked in the previous slide. And then we'll be able to describe the factors that can affect Azure, compare the pricing calculator and the total cost of ownership calculator usage or features, and then describe the cost management tools and then the purpose of using tags in Azure. So the first, among the factors that are affecting your resources or that will affect your cloud environment. So just like the on-premises equipment costs, there are several elements that will affect your monthly costs when using Azure services as well. So one of the first elements is the resource type. The resource type, costs are resource specific in Azure, and then so the usage that a meter track and the number of meters associated with your resource depends on the resource type. So when we talk about meters now, we are talking about certain attributes or properties that a particular resource have that could either bring down the cost of that resource or increase the cost of the resource as we make use of it over time. So for instance, right, if you have a virtual machine, or when you are creating a virtual machine, some of the things that have to be added as part of that virtual machine is the operating system that the virtual machine is going to be running. That operating system require a license for you to be able to use it. Then you talk about the hard drive where the OS is going to be sitting on. Then you talk about the processor, the process for the processing power of that virtual machine, the memory depending on the application you want to use or host on that virtual machine. Those are attributes or meters that is going to affect the virtual machine or the cost of that particular virtual machine that you are picking. Likewise, network interface also affects it, like whether you are going to have a public IP to attach to your virtual machine. That public IP also attach a cost. So then that's a resource, or that's one of the attributes or factors that can affect your cost. Another factor is the consumption uh, within the consumption of the resources that you are currently paying or you are buying or you're using in Azure. So a key attribute of any cloud service is the payment model. The fact that you have the pay as you go model that allow you to be able to pay for just the resource that you're using. So if you use, so for instance, if you subscribe for the service last month, at the end of there will be what we call a billing cycle or a billing period. From the day you start then to a particular day in that month will be will complete a billing cycle or a billing period, which means you don't have to pay from the inception. You can use that service from maybe 1st of the month to 30th or the last day of the month. And then Microsoft will give you your bill based on what you have used for that month. Now, if there is possibility that you pay less this month, and then depending on the resource usage for next month, there's possibility that you pay more, and vice versa. So it does not, it's so simple that Azure allow you to use services and pay based on that usage. Then Azure also offers the ability to commit to using a set amount of cloud resources in advance and then receiving discounts on those resources. So the type of resource or this type of payment option is called the reserved instances. So the reserved instances is a special consumption type where you are paying this year, maybe you want to reserve that, but let's take virtual machine for instance. You want to reserve that virtual machine for the next 3 years you are going to be using it. So if you reserve it this year now, this month, the cost of that virtual machine for this month is what you are going to pay for the next 3 years. So it means if anything change within Azure and the cost of that particular resource increase, because you have committed and reserved that instance for 3 years, you are going to continue to pay the old price. You won't pay the new price as, compared to people who did not reserve their resource of the same type. So you will pay less than what somebody who did not reserve is paying. So another factor is the maintenance option in Azure, the maintenance of your Azure resources. So monitoring will help you to know when to adjust resources based on demand. So there, there's bound to be what they call resource crawl, or resource sprawl, rather sprawl. Sprawl is that's SPRAWL. So where is a situation where you have resources created and over time they are not being used and they are forgotten that they were actually created. So even though you're not using them and you are forgetting, it's actually consuming your money. And the monitoring will help you to be able to detect that on time and delete or remove resources that you are no longer in use of, so that you can be able to manage your costs accordingly with resources. So another way by which you can, or a way by which you can organize your resources and maintain it well in Azure, is using resource group. So resource group allow you to keep all your resources organized in one location. So if you are looking for how much a particular service or particular department has been using, if you have created their resource group in their resources in a particular resource group, all you need to do is to go to that resource group and you'll be able to see the cost that has been generated by resources in that resource group. So in order for you to control costs in Azure, it is very important to keep an eye on your cloud environment to avoid anything, any resource sprawl that we're talking about. So take for instance, again, if you have a virtual machine that has been created before, remember that storage is part of it, network is part of it, processor memory is part of what you are creating. Now, there are times where you need to deprovision that virtual machine. When you deprovision it, in most cases, you might not know there is the hard drive is not deprovision. So even though the virtual machine has been deprovisioned, or even when you deprovision mean you don't need the resource again, and then you delete that resource. So I've deleted the virtual machine, but the hard drive is actually not deleted. Then there are times where you have a situation of disallocated resources, where the hard drive is disallocated from the virtual machine. And then if you don't know it, you are going to still continue to pay for that hard drive, because Microsoft will reserve it just to keep your data in case you still need the data. So it's something you need to ensure that when you are deprovisioning a VM, you need to take into consideration all the associated resources that are linked to that resource. And if you don't need them again, you need to also look for them and delete them accordingly. So moving on, we have also geography. So if you recall, when we are creating any Azure resources, one of the things we need to pick is the region where we want that resource to be hosted. Now, the region affects the cost of the particular resource that you are creating, because Azure infrastructure is distributed globally. So which enable you really to deploy your services centrally or closer to you or your customers. And with this global deployment also comes the difference, the price differences, right? So they need to consider here the cost of the power, cost of labor, the taxes that are attached to those resources or those locations, and the fees, which varies depending on that particular location you are picking. So for instance, if you are going to be uh, selecting a resource or creating a resource in a particular region now, maybe like Europe, the cost is different from the one for South Africa. The cost is different from Asia or even South America. So those are things that you need to take into consideration. Network traffic is also another thing that can affect your um, bills or costs in Azure. So billing uh, uh, zones are also, affect, they are a factor that affects or determine the cost of some of the services. So when we talk of traffic here now, we talk of the bandwidth that is going to be generating. As traffic, as data come into Azure or data leaves Azure, uh, uh, um, that traffic bandwidth is being used here, and you are being charged depending on the direction. So also, if let's say you have resources within the same region, the bandwidth costs for you to move data between maybe two virtual machines that are hosted in the same Europe region, for instance, is cheaper compared to when you want to move data from a virtual machine that is in Europe to another virtual machine that is in Asia. So you will have to pay more for that because of the distance and that is involved in between those data centers or the resources you are transferring data from. So then there are also some services that, or some traffic type that does not generate or that are free for you in Azure. So some inbound data transfer, that's data going into Azure data centers, are free, while data going out of the data center are paid for. So take for instance, if you're migrating your data now from on-premises to Azure, as the data, as you are moving the data from your local data center to Azure, it is free for you. But if you are moving that data out, or as users are accessing the resource maybe over the internet, is they are requesting information from the server on Azure, and Azure is responding to them. So that response going back and forth, you're actually paying for it. So this is also a factor that can affect your costs in Azure. So we have what we call ingress or egress data transfer. Ingress is data coming into Azure. Egress is data going out. You always pay for data going out, which is egress. But ingress, some data transfer with that, some data coming in are free, while some are paid for. So the third one is your subscription. I mean, the sixth one on the list is your subscription type. So there are different subscription types when it comes to Azure, right? And then each type includes some level of allowances which affect your cost as well. So one of the type of subscription that you have in Azure is what we call sponsored or trial subscription. If you sign up for a trial now, Microsoft give you an amount like a $200 for 30 days, right? But and then some additional resources that you can use for a period of 12 months. Now, those resources that you can use for a period of 12 months, they are free. But in the first 30 days, they give you a level of credit, which is a $200 that you can use within 30 days. So then you have the sponsored one where you reach out to Microsoft. Maybe you want to try out a particular service and you reach out to Microsoft and they give you some level of credit. This is not trial now. They can give you like a $1,000 credit. And then once that credit finishes, you have to either continue paying for the service or you cannot use that service again. Then you have another one, which is the pay as you go. This is the most common and most used one. And the reason for this is because anybody, small business, individual, or enterprise, or majorly small business and individuals, they might want to use resources or services that are as good that the enterprise customers are using. And then because they are not so big to use the enterprise licensing type or subscription type, they will use the pay as you go option to consume that service and pay just for it. Then you have what we call the enterprise agreement Azure subscription option. This is for large organization and enterprise organization where they have thousands of users or thousands or yes, or they are distributed across the globe. You know, they have different branches, different office locations and all of that. So this for enterprise. So this one allow customers to be able to pay certain amount over a period of 3 years. So they have an agreement like for 3 years. So within that 3 years, whatever they have committed right now, whatever they are paid for the first year is the same amount they will pay for the second year and pay for the third year. However, in between the 3 years, if they they can decide to use services that they did not pay for initially. And then at their anniversary year of the second year, they will do what we call throw up. The throw up mean pay for the additional services in addition to the original fee you're supposed to pay before. But they are still going to be paying the same exact price or cost that they were given from the inception. So that means if, as at the time they signed this agreement, virtual machine, to set up a virtual machine cost $1,000, and then in the second year, now if you want to set up a virtual machine, it's $1,200, but because there's an agreement, they will still be allowed to pay for $1,000. For plus, if they have now added, before they didn't add Azure backup to their service, but during their period, during the agreement, they've started using Azure backup, so they are going to add the cost of Azure backup on top of what they are supposed to pay before. And finally, we have Azure virtual desktop machine reserved instances. I talked briefly about reserved instances earlier. So this is a situation where you reserved the virtual machines, and then you continue to pay the same amount of cost for over the period of the reservation. You can reserve for 1 year, you can reserve for 2 years, 3 years, and then I think you can reserve for 5 years as well. So that's those are the factors around consumption of the subscription that can affect your Azure services or costs. Now, moving on, there's the Azure Marketplace. Azure Marketplace allow customers to find, try, purchase, and provision applications and services from hundreds of leading service providers. So this majorly is for partners that partners or independent vendor that develop their own solution and host it in Azure. So when you are now paying, you will be paying for both the Azure resources and the solution that that particular vendor is provisioning for you. So let's say maybe, for instance, you have your company develop maybe a let me see, they develop a, a product that is targeting the financial sector, maybe like, yes, or an HR, let's say HR solution. You develop an HR solution and then you are hosting that HR solution in Azure. You can host it in Azure Marketplace, or you can publish it to Azure Marketplace so that you can reach, or a wider audience or general public can reach it and buy that solution. So as they are buying, they will pay for the resources that you are using in Azure to host that solution, and then they will pay for the licenses that you are giving to them to use that HR application. So that is what majorly the Azure Marketplace is all about. It's give open source, we give open source vendors the platform or the ability to be able to host their services. So they will bundle the service, they will bundle all the resources that is required, the virtual machine, the database, the storage, everything that is needed, they have already bundled it together. So when you select it, you are only going to be configuring the application that you are going to be using, not you configuring the underlying Azure resource aspect of it again. So that's all about Azure Marketplace. Now, Azure Pricing Calculator, this is actually a tool that allows or help you to estimate your cost of your Azure products. So the option that you choose can configure the option that you can configure in the pricing calculator varies depending on the products that you want to. So, but on the basic level, when you are using Azure Calculator to estimate your cost, you need to, one of the key things that you need to select, or the basic setting you need to select, is the region. You need to select the region where that resource will be hosted. You need to select the tier. So in terms of virtual machine, now if you see on this screen, you see a virtual machine. You see the region, which is West US. Then you see the down here was even on this way. You see D2 V2, that is the tier. So the tier will tell the number of CPU, the number of memory, the hard drive that will come with that particular system, virtual machine that you are. Then you need to select the billing option. So billing option, whether it is pay as you go you want, or you want to reserve, or you are going by CSP model. That's a cloud CSP, that's cloud uh, um, subscription partner. So that means you are buying from them, not directly from Microsoft. So then you have the support option that you need to add, whether it's the standard support option you will go with, that's the support that comes with every package, or you will get extra support feature or plan that give you maybe things like 2 hours response time, or 1 hour response, or even 30 minutes, or a call back immediately. So those are the things, the program and feature, and then Azure Dev and Test pricing. So if you want to use, for instance, you want to develop the solution, you are not ready, you are still in the development state, you are not ready to deploy to production yet. So as against you getting the standard cost, you can use the dev test environment or and pricing option, so that after you are finished with your development and testing, you can then deploy to production, where you start paying the standard prices. So in a nutshell, the pricing calculator provides estimates for you and not the actual quotes. So it just gives you an estimate. So actual pricing can vary depending upon the dates of purchase, the payment currency, and then the type of customer that you are. Whether you are just a pay-as-you-go customer, you are an enterprise customer. Remember the type of subscription we talked about in the previous slide. So one of the exercises that we're going to be looking at is the Azure, using the Azure pricing calculator. We'll look at that in a while, or maybe I should just quickly show us that. Let me see. It's supposed to start today. Okay. Give me a minute. All right. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and go to share browser. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, it's this guy. Okay, so now can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm just going to go to Azure pricing calculator. Okay, that's pricing calculator. Pricing calculator. So here, if you have, you can actually sign in so that you can have multiple configurations saved under your account. So let's say, for instance, I need a virtual machine now to host a particular application. So I'll be selecting virtual machine. So, and it has added, then I'll click view to bring me down here. Now, what I want is virtual machine, right? And then you will see already on top, it is telling the subscription that it has picked already, and the payment method, whether it's monthly, it's already telling me. So now, the region, like we saw in the, we talked about the region, we have to select the region. Let's leave it as West US. Then you need to select the operating systems that we want. If it is Windows, you know that license will be required also. Linux, it can be Linux or Windows. So let's select Windows. Then standard operating system is what we need on it. And then the tier, whether it's basic or it's standard. So I'm going to select basic, for instance. Sorry, let's select standard so that we can be real. Then categories here, all categories, that's in terms of how heavy the virtual machine that you're going to be using. So depending on what you select here, is going to give you the particular memory processor and co. So I'll pick general purpose, for instance. Say instance series. It has picked A series for me. So I will just maybe look for something else. Let's pick the D series. Okay, so I'm picking now. This is the available VM under that series. I'm going to leave it as one CPU core, 3.5 gigabit of memory is fine. This is my per hour cost, 0.126 dollars per hour. So I'll select that. If I select that, now how many virtual machines do I need? One. If it is two, if you go up now, this is the cost per month. If I increase it to two instance, is going to increase the cost accordingly. It's per month for those two virtual machines. And then I need to select the number of, this is hours, right? I would like to put it to, okay, yes, hour is fine. 3744. 744, that's a complete 1 year. Is that hours? Or we can pick days, or we can pick, yeah, sorry, that's 1 month rather, or we can pick month, 1 month. So depending, so if I put this now to 12 months, that means for a year, you see it has, where is it, what happened? 12 months. Okay. Changing it, this, let's see, 3, 6, 5 days. It's not changing, so I don't know why. Okay, normally when you export it, you can then select, you can then convert the year, or we give you yearly option. Now going forward, rather, you see other saving option. So this saving option is more of, if you have for operating system, if you have what we call hybrid benefits, that means you have some Windows server licenses that you have purchased from Microsoft before, you can make use of that. If I say include license, if I say hybrid benefit, you see the costs per month cost has reduced. But if I say include license, per month cost will increase accordingly. So this is per month cost of license for the Windows Server operating system that will be running on this virtual machine, right? So now there are other saving option is I can reserve, reserve for 1 year. Okay, I said 3 options. It's actually 2 options. I can reserve for 1 year, or I can reserve for 3 years. The first option was pay as you go option. I can reserve for 1 year or 3 years, depending on which one I pick. This is the level of discount I'm going to get. So for the next 3 years, I'm going to be paying the same monthly cost. See what has happened here. It has dropped down greatly. If I pick 1 year, it's $159. If I pick 3 years, it's $140. You see the greater improvement. Then if I pick hybrid benefit, it drop it down further. So these are factors that can actually affect your costing. Now, if you pick reserved in this instance, see reserved instance is even much more, give you more benefits than the other saving plan options that you have. So this is how you are going to be able to. Now, disk you need to select, this is standard HDD. If it's SSD you want, depending on the performance of the service. So all of these attributes or all of these meters are going to affect what you'll be paying monthly. And then now when you start using it, the usage will not determine. So we talk about data, that's bandwidth, the data transfer, either in or out. So if you say inter-region data transfer, that's within from one region to another region. And internet transfer is from this region where our resource is hosted to Microsoft Global Network. So all of these affect your cost as well. So outbound transfer, if you increase this, this is out. If you increase, it's also going to affect your costs as well. Now, this is a support plan that we talk about. Included is a basic support option, but you have other support options that you can add to it. And as you add, it's going to add extra fee for you, but give you extra benefits as against the standard support. Then select your program/offer. So licensing program, you have customer Microsoft customer agreement option. Then so because of I didn't sign in or so, depending if you sign in and you notice you are from an enterprise organization, it will give you option for enterprise agreement as well. Then if it is testing, this is where you turn it on, you enable it, and then you are able to add it and make use of it for testing. This is just so let's really answer. Okay, let's okay. So now, because I've turned on that is testing environment or test purpose, I want to use it for. It has applied some level of discount and has reduced whatever cost I'm going to be paying per month at the end of the day. So that is how you can use this cost or pricing calculator to calculate. Then you can select your currency that you're going to be paying in. So what we can do now is to either share or export this to Excel, and then we can look at it, or we share it with somebody who wants to be able to view it as well. So this is this is what we are going to be paying. We are having virtual machine in the East US region and 2 virtual machines for that matter. And then this is what we are going to be paying per month. Because we added standard support to it, we are going to be paying this per month as against over $200 that we're supposed to have been paying before. So that's how to use pricing calculator. So I'm going to stop sharing now and share again the slides to continue. Okay, so moving on, the total cost of ownership calculator as well, like just like the cost pricing calculator. This is also another tool that can help you to estimate cost saving you will realize by migrating your resources from on-premises to Azure. And then it will generate a generate a report that compare the cost of the current on-premise resources as against when you are migrating it to the to cloud. Rather, it's going to give you that. So since the pricing calculator and the cost management advisor can help you to predict and analyze your spending for new or existing services. So if you are starting to migrate to the cloud, a useful tool, okay, we have already talked about, is the TCO. So TCO uses a comprehensive list of on-premises assumption. It's based on assumption, actually. On-premises assumption that Microsoft has put together based on years of experience of working with various customers in the industry and across different industries. And these assumptions are used to provide you with best estimate possible of your cost saving. So when you are using this, you start by entering details about your on-premises infrastructure into the TCO calculator. So majorly there are 4 groups. You have the server segment or the server section, where you enter the details of your current on-premises server infrastructure. You have the database section that allow you to enter the current database that you have on-prem, the size, the virtual machine, or the machine that is hosting it. You will put those information in the calculator. So then you have the storage the storage section that allow you to enter the details of your on-premises storage infrastructure. So some organizations they purchase external storage. So they can buy storage that will give them maybe a petabyte of storage option or storage space, or even a terabyte, just in terabytes of storage space. So you have to put all of those into consideration. And then the fourth one is the networking. So you need to enter the amount of network bandwidth you're currently consuming in your on-premises environment. So based on those attributes or those information you've provided, is going to give you a cost comparison of when you move those exact resources to the cloud as against continuing to operate in the on-premises environment. So there's also there's a lab or exercise for this as well, but I will, okay, let me see if I can. I think I would like to take this one. Should I take it later, or let's just quickly look at it quickly. Share your screen again. Window. Oh, how did I share? Okay. So now going to TCO calculator. So the other time we Google, you can as well just go to azure.com. Under pricing, you see pricing calculator, you see TCO calculators. You select that. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You need to define your workload, adjust assumptions, and view reports based on the data imputed. Like we said, it has 4 sections. So the first section is the server area. So here, the current server we have on-prem, let's just assume some servers. We have okay, we have a window server right now. You see physical or virtual. It could be virtual machine. So now this virtual machine, what operating system is running Windows, and operating system license. Let's use let's use a host. If we use a host, we'll be able to use, we can use data center. So data center, the different licensing type, the standard give you like two virtual machines, right? The data center give you like unlimited virtual machine, right? Depending on the processing power of your physical server. Then the number of servers that we have, let's say we have about four heavily populated or heavy load server hardware, and then processors per server that we have currently. Let's say we have each server have maybe two processors. Each server have two processors, and each processor have 8 cores. So that means a server is having two processor of 8 core by 2, which is a server is having a total of 16 core processor. Then, though heavy load server, physical server, we need more than that. But let's stay with that. It's just an estimate. Now, the memory on each of the server, let's say 256. That's what we have. CPU optimized by, so we say CPU or memory. Let's say memory. And then this is not important. So we have defined the server. If you have other server type, you can add them as well. But let's stay with this. Then on these servers, do we have maybe databases hosted? Yes, we have some databases hosted. What is our database license? We are using enterprise, and then these databases are hosted on virtual machines, and then operating system Windows. The operating system on them is data center. Why I'm picking data center? Because our hosts are running on data center. So it's data center. So now I can say on each machine, on each physical server, let's say we have about 12 virtual machines, 12 VM, but this is for, no, 12 VM, this is for databases only, right? It's for databases only. So we can say maybe four database server is hosted. Then the virtualization technology we are using currently is, because we are using Windows, we have to pick Hyper-V. Then the number of cores per the virtual machine, we have about 4 cores per virtual machine. Processor, let's say we have 32 gig processor, memory, or rather, we have 32 gig memory on each of that virtual machine. Then it is optimized by memory as well. And we can continue like this. Then this is source, uh, destination. So this destination is kind of, excuse me, asking if we are to move these resources to Azure, where do we want to host it? Do we want to host it in Azure Virtual Machine also, or we want to use Azure SQL, or we want to use Azure database managed instance? So let's say we'll use virtual machine as well. Virtual machine will require hard drive to run. So because it's DB, we want to use SSD, right? And input outputs that we need. Let's look at 1,000, right? This is like transactions. Then the storage that will be required, we can pick 1,000. That's 1,024. That's a terabyte of storage. Then backup in data, in gigabytes. Let's say the current backup that we'll need for each server, backup space, say 500 GB. So Now we've added this. Now we'll go to storage as well. Under storage, we pick SSD. So now, if what we are using currently, we have a SAN environment that we are using, or it's a disk that we are using, so um, we can use SAN, leave it as SAN, and then pick SSD. And capacity currently is 1 terabyte we pick, or we can say, I think this is asking for the capacity of our entire storage. Let's say we have 10 TB, we have 10 terabytes, and then backup that we have currently, we've not used up to the 10 terabyte, let's say like 5 terabytes, and then archive, and leave that. Then input outputs can go to the same 1000, right? And then networking, this is in terms of bandwidth now, and this one we can say maybe 5,000 because of the type of business that we do. So we click next on this, and now we can adjust assumption accordingly. Is there anything we want to in terms of, right, Azure bit? So if we have, with the way our environment is, there is definitely, we have our licenses that we want to bring into Azure as well. So it has already selected Azure benefits, hybrid benefit for SQL and Windows Server. So we'll leave it as that. Redundancy for storage. Uh, let's say we want to add replication to another geography, and then virtual machine costs. Virtual machine enable this for calculator to not recommend B series. Okay, so the B series they are smaller VM. So I'm going to turn it on. So it will recommend from the D series and above. Then electricity cost. To be sincere, I'll just leave this as this. I don't know what to put there. Then storage costs. Storage cost. We can leave this. Fine, fine. Active labor. We're fine. We can leave every other thing like that and just click next. So now to view reports. So this is our report. This over 5 years with Azure, your estimated cost saving could be as much as this 361 thousand, thousand. So this is over 5 years, right? So this total on-premise cost versus um, Azure cost over time. So anything in blue is Azure, is for on-prem, anything. So you notice that Azure is less compared to on-prem cost. The on-prem cost is above 600,000. This even like 800,000, while for the Azure it's just like 500K um, of the cost. So you can kind of, okay, this is the exact cost that we are seeing in the above. So this gives you like an overview of what and could be your estimate, or what could be your saving if you are to migrate your current Azure services, the on-prem services to Azure. So we'll stop there and continue with the lecture. So if you have any question, let me know, please.
Okay, ma'am, but I'm okay for now. The explanation is
okay. All right, thank you. So moving on, another tool that is very good in Azure is the cost calculator, or the cost manage, not cost cap, the cost management. So Azure Cost Management is a built-in Azure tool that can be used to gain greater insights into where your cloud money is going. So you can see things like historical breakdowns, of what services you are currently spending or you are spending your money on, and how it is tracking against your budget that you have set. Every organization have budgets that they set for the year. They set like January, in December, you see everyone running around that these are the projects we want to embark on in the next year. And then they will reach out to their various vendors or partners to give them costs that will help them to achieve those projects or actualize those projects. So based on the cost estimate that they receive from their vendors or partner, or even going to places like Azure and doing using cost calculator and then cost TOC calculator, they are able to create a budget and then submit to their organization. When they get approval and they get their budget allocated to them, now when they start using these services, they need to be able to compare, are they still within budget or they are overusing, utilizing their budget fund. So, or is there something that is equal saving them even more cost that they can divert some funds from the budget to something else or other area. So Azure Cost Management allow you to view report on billing, to view data enrichment. It provides rich data around, even right from this screen. You will see that you can see the cost estimate. That's what you will be. The dark red, is it dark red or dark brown now, is showing the current cost you are consuming. The light one, the light section there, let me use my laser. Okay, so the light section there is telling you at the end of that particular billing cycle, this is what you will be spending as at that time. So you are able to see things, and then you can create budget, set budget for your Azure resources, and that's on your Azure subscription, set budget like monthly budget, and then configure alert that once you are hitting your budget for the month, or you are exceeding, before you are hitting the limit, is to send you an alert so you can be able to know whether you will check what you are currently using and see what is consuming more things and see things that you are no longer in use of and remove them accordingly. So that's majorly what uh, cost calculator give to you. Now I'm talking about tags. Tags provide what we call metadata for your Azure resources. And metadata is actually data about data. So metadata is referred to as data about data. So is information about a particular resource and information about a particular resource. So tags are usually name and value pairs of text data that you can apply to your resources and then resource groups. So it allows you to associate custom details about your resources in addition to the standard Azure properties that you have for a particular resource. So let's say when you are creating so many resources, and this resource you are creating so many resources, and these resources are being used by different teams or departments or even different subsidiaries, and then any one of these resource groups are to be paid for by the individual users. So you can have a situation whereby you have a very large marketing unit, or you have a very large accounting unit, and they have their own applications that they want to host that they use for the business, right? So you can create an Azure resource group and give it a tag rather, saying this is for account, right? And then every resources they need will be created in that resource group, and they will carry that tag for marketing. So you notice they say it's a name value pair. So you have, for instance, okay, yeah, now let's pick. You have things like owner, or we have the department. Department is a name, then the value for this department now is marketing. So the marketing department will be having this tag on all their resources. Now, when you want to get billing at the end of a billing cycle for the marketing department or for the account department, you will just select that particular tag, marketing or accounts, and it will bring all the resources and also give you the cost that all the resources have consumed or have used or have spent. Then you can generate that report and provide it to the marketing or the account department, and then they know what they are spending, and they will be the one to pay for it. Or even if it's another subsidiary, they will be the one to pay for it. So this way you can be able to manage costs and be able to manage resources people for different people within your organization. So that's majorly the function of tags in Azure. So let's talk a little bit about governance and compliance now in Azure. In Azure, and then what we'll be looking at under this is we'll be looking at the purpose of Azure blueprints. We'll look at Azure policy. I will look at Azure resource logs, and then service trust portal uh, for Azure customers. So moving on. Okay, now Azure Blueprints allow you really to define a repeatable set of Azure resources that implements and adhere to your organizational standards and then patterns and then requirements. So for every organization, they have their own requirements. They have a standard that they must follow when it comes to creating resources, managing resources, and then using resources as well. So Azure Blueprint allow you to be able to meet those standards. And then um, the blueprint enables that's the development team, for instance, right? So for instance, your development teams, the developers, they just have to concern themselves about writing their codes, testing it, and deploying it. Most of the time, they don't even concern themselves about the underlying resources, maybe how much it's costing. They just keep adding and adding and adding. They don't concern themselves really about what the cost of those resources is. They are just concerned about my code need to work, it need to be able to be accessible, it need to this, it need to that. They just create resources like that. So if you have such environment where you have this category of people, you will want to make use of Azure Blueprint to rapidly build and deploy new environment with the knowledge that they are building within the organizational uh, um, compliance with a set of built-in components that speed up their development and delivery without the issue of managing the underlying infrastructure. So Azure Blueprint is actually a declarative way to orchestrate the deployment of various resource templates and other artifacts in Azure. Artifacts include things like role assignment, policy assignment, Azure Resource Manager template, Azure Resource Groups, and the rest. So if you are using Azure Blueprint, the relationship between the blueprint definition, that is what should be deployed, and the blueprint assignment, that is what is or what was deployed, is preserved. So this connection support improved deployment tracking and auditing. To put it in another way, really, um, is even though the deployment team can deploy their code quickly and test it, they must ensure that blueprint put some set of settings of standard that say they must be able to meet those settings even while they are deploying, so that they do not jeopardize the security of the environment they are deploying, the applications, or even the data that are being generated from there. So Azure is like a baseline. It's like set a baseline that must be met, right, by your users, developers especially. Then we talk about Azure policy, right? So Azure policy, what it does is it grants permission to the users to access certain resources. That's policy. Policy grant permission to users to access certain resources. So like we said, that every organization have standards and guidelines. They have regulatory policies and requirements that must be met and followed by every member of the organization, right? These policies, they could be related to things like security, they could be related to cost, they could be related to management, or even a combination of those attributes that or area that we've just talked about. So let's say, for instance, an organization might want all resources to be created in a particular region, or they might want to prevent the creation of resources uh, in a of a certain amount, or that all resources that they create must carry a tag that identify the purpose, the use of that particular resource. So all these examples can then be, they can be tagged or they can be categorized as some form of compliance rules or policy that people must follow when creating resources in Azure. So now there are what we call policy definition, and then policy in and initiative definitions. So policy definitions, they are the individual policies that you set. So for example, a resource requiring a compulsory tag is an individual policy. So it means when you are creating a tag and when you are creating a resource, it will prompt you to add a tag to that resource. That's a standalone policy on its own. Then you can have a situation whereby a virtual machine must be created in a specific location. That one too is another standalone policy on its own. Now, all of these policies that are standalone can then be grouped together to become what we call initiative definition. So when there is a need to apply multiple individual policies to a resource, we will have to be creating what we call initiative definition. So the first thing is you need to define your policies first. After defining your policy, then you define your initiative definition that will contain the group of policies that must apply when your users are creating resources in Azure. So in a nutshell, an initiative policy, a policy definition is individual policy that will apply to a particular resource. Why an initiative definition is a collection of policies that can be assigned and applied at different level. It can be applied at subscription level. It can be applied at resource group, management group level. It can be applied at resource group level or even at the resource level itself. So you can apply policy to, things like networking resources, storage resources, compute resources like virtual machine, even security center and monitoring resources. You can apply the policies and initiative definition to those resources more. So looking at Azure Resource Lock, Azure Resource Lock provide your, it protects, really protect your Azure resources from accidental deletion or accidental modification. So uh, uh, manage logs. You can manage logs at subscription level, at resource group level, or at individual resource level. Like I said, logs can also be applied at different level within your Azure cloud infrastructure. So there are times, right, when you create a resource and then try to perform certain tasks with certain tasks, and then you realize, oh, you have mistakenly deleted that particular resource, but that wasn't the intention. Now, when it comes to recovering resources in deleted resources in Azure, some resources does not support recovery. So if you delete such resource, they are gone. They are gone for life. They cannot be restored. But some can be. So if, in order for you to prevent such occurrence of you being in such situation, what you need to do here is create and assign or apply resource lock to it. Now, resource locks, there are of two major types. We have the delete type, and then we have the read-only type. Just like the name implies, delete lock allow you to um, uh, allow all operations against the resources, but the ability to delete it. So, sorry, with the ability to delete that resource. Then you have that means you will be able to delete the resource. That's delete. You can, sorry, I'm sorry. You cannot be able to delete. You can update, you can do everything you want to do on that resource. But when it comes to deletion, it is a no. You cannot delete that resource. Then you have the read-only resource lock type. It will only allow you to view all information regarding this resource, or you cannot make any modification, and you cannot delete such resource. Those are the two major resource lock type that you have in Azure. Delete, it means you can read, you can update, but you cannot delete. And read only, you can only view information about the resources and not delete or make any updates or modification to it. We will also see resource lock in a few minutes. Let's see. Let's finish the last slide on this particular session, which is okay. So there is what we call service trust, and then there's a portal. So service trust is actually a governing portal that allow you to be able, or service trust have to do with governance and compliance and security around your Azure cloud. So governing your own resources and how they are used is only part of solution when using any cloud service provider, right? You also have to understand how the provider manages the underlying resources you are building on. So it's not enough to say, oh, I'm hosting my data in Azure, Azure is taking care. That means Microsoft is in charge of a lot of my resources because they own Azure, right? So it's good for you to understand what and what Microsoft can do and what you can do when it comes to the cloud platform that we are using. So with this, Microsoft actually takes this management very seriously and provide full transparency to customers. And one of the way to manage compliance is you having access or visiting the Service Trust Portal. The Service Trust Portal hosts the compliance manager services and then is the Microsoft public site publishing audit reports and other compliance related information relevant to Microsoft Cloud Services. So it includes information about Microsoft online services that can help your organization maintain and track compliance with standards, laws, and regulations such as the ISO regulation, GDPR, um, and GDPR, NDPR, a lot of other, standards that you must meet as an organization. So the trust portal is has some resources that you can easily access and use to manage. One of it is Compliance Manager. The compliance manager is a tool for managing your regulatory compliance in the cloud. Then you have the audit reports that provide comprehensive reports and resources that allow you to see details on how Microsoft maintain compliance. So for them to be able to maintain and operate the data center, they must meet some environmental requirements. They must meet some maybe location policy like the governing body, that's the governance based on the governance government of that particular location they are hosting the data center. They must be able to meet some requirements. Other requirements like privacy like how who and who can access your data. That's even a very important or one thing within the GDPR that allow you to be able to protect the privacy of your customer information that is stored or that is with you. So likewise, you are a Microsoft customer and they also need to be able to comply with the GDPR policy, for instance. You have other policies like the ISO 2000, ISO 27000, and so on and so forth. There are a whole lot of them out there. So, and as Microsoft is meeting each of these standards, they are publishing it. And the fact that they are meeting it is also saying if you are required to meet this standard, because Microsoft is meeting it, they're already meeting it for you. So the only one you now need to be concerned about is now when it now comes to you as a user or as a customer, and then your users accessing the services that you are providing to them through this platform is now to ensure that you also now implement your own compliance in it. But when it comes to the data center management, compliance policy, when you come to data center, if you're setting up data center, one of the requirements is you must have fire, fire system in place that can help you to quickly tackle fire incidents within your data center. You must have physical security. The physical security inclusive of camera. Those camera require to meet certain specifications, like they must be able to see clearly in the dark, in the night when all lights are off. You must have cooling policy. That environment must have enough cooling. Then the rack you are using self must have be of a particular height. of a particular depth or width. So all of these are policies that you must meet when you are setting up a data center. So Microsoft is already meeting this for you, but you now have to, when you now come to data access, data management, you now need to implement and ensure you are meeting your own part of the GDPR or any other like policy as well. So what we are going to do is stop here and move the rest of the slides to our next session, which is next week. So now, since we still have a few minutes, I think we can go back to some, where were we? We're supposed to, yeah, resource tag. Let's quickly see cost management, resource tag. If we have more time, we will see resource log as well. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going back to, okay, now we're back, and now I'm currently on my Azure subscription. Let me refresh. Okay, so now when you log in to your Azure and you select your subscription, you see here cost management. Is that the first we are talking about? Yes. After the TCU, you see cost management, right? Now under it, you see cost analysis, you see budget that we talk about, you see alert. So budgets allow you to be able to set budget for the particular subscription. So let it load for us. We do not have any. So we can create a budget. Considering that this subscription is only, we have monthly credit of $100. So let's see what we can put in our budget. Okay. So $100. If you look here already, it's already telling me this is overtime, what we have been using. In November, we didn't use much. In December 2022, we used about over 60% of our monthly credit. Then in January 2023, we used almost 90%. And notice this, in March 2023, we actually overused our subscription. We used 107. Meanwhile, the amount of credit we have is $100. Now we've overshooted by $7. So we can prevent such from happening. Because what happens is, the moment you overshoot on what is allowed, Microsoft will disable your subscription. And once they disable the subscription, you cannot access the services until it is re-enabled back. So for you to remove it from disabled state, you might either need to add a card to increase the limit that you have, maybe take it higher than 100 so that it will enable it back. And then you notice that it dropped back. The current month, which we are in May, we have used already almost 40% of this budget of our money. So there's forecast. You can see this is where we'll be going. We'll be eating over 80% at the end of May. So that's how you can see and then set your budget accordingly. So if we are creating budget, we are going to be giving it a name, my monthly budget, right? Must contain alphanumeric. project name must only contain alphanumeric underscore and hyphen. No space. Okay, so now what type of reset period we want is monthly. Yes, monthly. Then we want to, the creation date is May, and then okay, it should be May. So it can only start from May 26th. Then expiration date is so depending, we can continue. We can either choose same year, or its end date should be greater than, yes, we can either pick same year and then maybe December like this. And if it starts on the 26th of a month, it means the end date of the next month will be on the 25th. So you can do it that way, like that. You can leave it. And then the amount we want is, maybe it's $50 we want, depending. Let's say what we have is, we have $12,000 right now for to be spent for 12 months. So in such instance, it will make sense to say $1,000 for each month. It makes sense. So that means I want to spread $12,000 over I want to spread $12,000 over 12 months. So like this is telling us now, based on the credit that we have, the suggested budget is 85% based on the forecast for this month. So I can say it's not go beyond 85%. Then I can click next, and it has set my budget. But we can pity it or just be realistic and say, maybe let's say $19, right? Okay, and then so give it a little allowance, right? And then we click next, and here we can configure alert, we can set alert. Once it is hitting that, so the actual, whether it's on actual cost that is alert us, or the forecast. So it's better, maybe we can do forecast or we can do actual. Then the actual percentage, let's say 19%. If it is hitting 90%, to let us know. Action group, none. Then we can say forecast as well. Action group, or at least one email address is required. Okay, we do this as well. And then for forecast, we can say let's see, numeric format. So forecast, let's say if it's going to 95, kind of, that would be 85. Okay, so let us know. Now management group says important, so we're just going to go there and create one, since we do not have one currently. Create one, and this, then the resource group, this, and region global, instance, group name, let me select T, display name T, and then click next. In the notification, select email or SMS or voice. Email Azure Resource Manager role. Resource Manager, email, SMS. Speak this email, and then I'll put an email address. Let me see. Yes. B at textiler. Mhm. That's fine. And then I click OK. Notification name is required. Notification name is required. Budget alert.
Hello, ma.
Yeah.
Please, ma, I want
Yes.
to excuse myself for some minutes. It's about to rain. There's some clothes outside, so I want to go and break them.
Okay, no problem.
Ma, I'm back. Sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So I'll just click create, and that's we are creating the action group. Let's create the action group. Okay. So now you create it. No sugar. Okay. So we said 85, 1090, 1019. starting in May, same year, ending in December, 25th of the month, and then we click next. So here we say we want actual at 80%, 5, actual is 18, 290. Okay, then I hope it created the group. It didn't create its own. Oh, no. Oh, sure. All right. Okay, it has created one. So what's going on here? Oh, okay, okay, I get it. So forecast to give us at 95%, and then you can select alert. Language preference English, and click create. Okay, so we have created the budget and an alert for the cost. So if we click the cost analysis now, we can see, just like we saw just now, we can see what we are using currently, and what will be at the end of the month. So currently we are here, and currently this is our actual cost currently, and this is the forecast cost by this time, May 12. This forecast cost, and this is our budget. So see, this screen is similar to what we saw in the slide. So here you can see the resources that are taking the most of the money. I can see a resource group called MSDNRG is taking most of the money. What are the resources in it? I can go into it to go and check the resources that are in it. So this resource group only is using this, and we have other things that we can look at. The type of resource that's using the money most is Azure App Service. Then we have Azure Virtual Machine. Then we have storage. So this is how you can tell, and then which region, US region, then followed by East US, and then Central US. So this can actually help you to tell how you are using your money and where you need to cut costs. So the other aspect we say we want to check quickly before we call it a day is tag, Azure tags. So I'm going to go to tags right here. Do not have any tag created now, but we can create and apply tags. So let's say uh, let's say purpose, for instance, purpose is training. So if I apply this is right now I'm applying it against, is applying against the subscription. That's where it's applying. So I can choose now which resource will this tag be applying to. Right now, there's no resources because it is applying at it is created at the resource group level. So if we go back to tags, we can create more. Department, departments. Let's say we have departments. We have, let's add another thing. Usage. We can build this usage. We can make it maybe um, testing or production. So now I'm going to try and create a resource or even go into an existing resource that has been created. Let's pick this VM, for instance. So this virtual machine is not started right now, but I'll go to tags for this virtual machine. They are none. So I can pick any of the ones that I've created on the as subscription level. So this VM was being used for um, training. Purpose is training. So if you have defined different things, to drop it down, you can drop them down here. A minute, please. Yes, sorry for the break. Let's just round up on this. Yeah, so I've assigned, I can apply multiple tags to a particular resource depending on what is applying to. So now this has been applied on virtual machine, remember, and we said we can apply it to different resource type. So I can decide to go to resource group and go and apply it at the resource group level, for instance. this AZ track, and then come here. This is for the purpose of training, and I pick training. So it means after the training, I can decide to get rid of it. And I haven't done that. Does it apply? Yes, it does. Okay. So now, let me go back to resource level and select that. Okay, it's supposed to be under here. Cost resource. Cost resource by. Yeah, okay, so that's majorly how to apply tags to your resources. And because of time, it's already 11 o'clock, so that we can, the only other thing that remains resource logs, right, that we didn't touch. If we want to do resource log right now, Azure resource log, when you click the subscription, you have resource log right there. So you can go into resource log. You can add resources. I'm sorry, resource log. The log name, never delete. No delete. No delete. No deletion. And I select delete. And notes, if I want to put a note, click OK. Okay. So right now I'll apply no deletes, no deletion on the subscription. You see that the scope right now is applying to subscription at the subscription level. So if I want to apply at the, let me delete it so that we can apply at the resource level. So we can go to resource group, for instance. Under resource group, select the resource group that we want, and under that resource group, you see lock. Then click the lock. There's none. You know we have lock at this, we've deleted it anyway. So if you say view only, or no delete, no delete, we apply this. So it will be applying to this resource group. So everything in this resource group automatically inherits this no delete action. So right now, I'm in this resource group. Let me go to resources and try to overview. Okay, this resource group. So in this resource group, where are the resources? Yeah. What's going on? I'm not seeing my resources. Oh, I can't really get it. Okay. also have resources in that one also. So I have, this seems to be the only resource I can see here now. If I select this now and I want to delete, the only thing is I'm an owner. Enter delete to confirm. Let's see. Okay, good. So you see the error I'm getting. Executed delete command on selected item failed. Reason for the failure: the scope cannot perform delete due to what? It is locked. I can't select it. But see the last, please remove the lock and try again. Code scope, code, that's the scope is locked. So I can't delete this resource right now, even though I'm an owner on this subscription. I cannot delete it. So that's how resource lock work. It help you prevent accidental deletion on your Azure resources. So that's, I think we have to stop here for now. If you have any question, I'm here to take them.
All
Hello?
right, ma. I didn't have any question though, but ma, can you like give me like labs to practice what we did today?
Yes, yes, yes. I will upload. I will upload rather. I will upload the lab. After we finish now, I will just upload them like immediately, so you can start them. So for the lab, you have lab for TCO, you have lab for pricing calculator, and you have lab for, let me see, yes, you have lab for Azure Resource Log, and you have lab for tagging. So I will
All
share
right.
all of them.
Okay, ma.
Okay,
Ma,
thank you
ma, then
very,
I want
very
to
much for your
ask
time.
a question. Sorry, I
Yeah,
want to ask a question. This
okay.
certification, this AZ900, if one gets
Mm.
it, can the person use it to get a job? Or because I've been seeing, they said it's not possible for you to
Yes,
get a
yes.
job. You have to get AZ104.
No, 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 no. So you can get a job as, there is there are beginner level, or the, yes, beginner level for when it comes to job using the AZ900. So if you are getting a job, if you are going, okay, hold on. I think